Happy Monday and welcome to another episode of John McEntyre Money Show live prime time. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Um, this particular show is a serious show. We had a very serious Hurricane Helene, a natural disaster that has affected 5 states directly. 5 states, not counting the people, the actual people that live in these states, their family from other parts of the United States as well as the world. So this was basically something that hadn't been seen in some areas in over 100 years. And so this was a natural disaster. Some people are saying, even more than like Hurricane Katrina, for instance. So I wanted to basically dedicate this show specifically to, to how we can help with the actual victims of Helene. Um, because Helene, it caused, let me see, it's over so far 100 deaths. So far, 100 deaths, hundreds of people unaccounted for. In North Carolina, they're saying, we're here in North Carolina. They're saying specifically that it's maybe 600 unaccounted for here in North Carolina. And so just that's not counting, the other states, Florida, who was hit directly, and it did so much damage to North Carolina that, that North Carolina hadn't seen before, that people almost forgot how much damage was actually done in Florida, in Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia. Some of West Virginia was affected. And so just want to basically talk about how we can help the people that was affected by Hurricane Helene. And so number one here, with us being in North Carolina, I talked about it a little bit last week that number one thing, well, I did the show last week talking about preparing for Hurricane Helene. When I did those shows, Hurricane Helene wasn't even a hurricane yet. They were, she was still in the Gulf of Mexico, strengthening. And so I did a show preparing, what documents, homeowners insurance, make sure you have those, your policies, any other thing, just preparing, hope for the best, pray for, plan for the worst. That's just the philosophy. And so now that we're on the backside, it's time to share a serious statistic. North Carolina, for instance, 98% of North Carolina residents don't have flood insurance. So because mainly there's no, outside of the coast, out there on the coast where the 2% are that has flood insurance, they have the rest of in the mountains. No one would ever think that Florida, Asheville, North Carolina, Lake Lure, Chimney Rock, these places up in the mountains that were hit the worst. There's places up there, Lake Lure, for instance, which is where my wife Andrea, she's from. That's her hometown. I grew up 20 miles just south of there. They're still without power. Lake Lure, the Chimney Rock area, almost looks as if back when it was first being developed over 100 years ago. So some of this area has been totally wiped out. The highways going to the western part of the state are all closed. These are major highways, Highway 40. These highways actually, falling off the side of the mountains up there and everything. Sinkholes everywhere. I mean, this place, it was serious, and it was one of those things that it shook me to my core, to be serious. It affected me much more than I thought it would. And so that's why this particular show is dedicated specifically for, all of the ways that we could help with Helene. And so they get started off, most people when they and it's perfectly fine. I love seeing all over the news, every news, all the way out to California, sending, their prayers and support, donations. People are taking the food, the clothing, water, supplies, all of those supplies. But we have to remember that cash is still king. Cash is still king. All of that works. All of it is very helpful. But I actually heard today on some of the I was watching. These are the people that are actually on the front lines in every little town and municipality. North Carolina, these rural areas, they have a lot of small. Uh, they were called hamlets. Hamlets, like little towns inside of towns, things like that. Their own corporations. They're incorporated separately, and so a lot of them, they were saying, we have plenty of supplies, we have plenty of water, we have plenty of food, we have plenty of clothing, but we do need cash. And so just remember that cash, your financial contributions are just as important. And the way it ran through my mind was like this. They said when a natural disaster happens in the United States, these are, calculations from the government, from, FEMA and all of these places. They were saying per, all of the money that has been spent during a natural disaster, it usually averages out to like $90 per person, which means some people are giving a lot. Some people are giving, the smaller important, and every amount is important. That's not to discount any amount. A dollar is a dollar, and is helpful. Just think if 1 million people just gave $1, so that's why I say I'm not discounting it, but it averages out to about $90. So what if everyone said, okay, well, out of the 90, 80 I'm going to buy supplies to, and 10 I'm going to send to one of the either the local charity or someone that needs the cash also. So let's just say 1 million people did it that way. Okay, that's $10 million that's going to all of these different charities. And instead of a lot of supplies, they're not used right off the bat, because the ones that are using it, they're also needing cash because they get cash strapped, and a lot of people end up just working for nothing, because they run through the cash quickly. With these types of when these types of disasters hit, and like I say, this is a never before seen disaster in some parts of the United States. They actually have not seen this. Hurricane Katrina, for instance, which was one of the last major natural disasters, some are saying that this one is even worse than Katrina, because some of the areas that was affected by Helene had never seen a hurricane before, had never been affected this way. And so, New Orleans have seen their share of hurricanes. They see a couple every year. It's just that, Katrina was just that big and that destructive, but we've had some rough ones since then. Well, this particular one, Helene, coming up through the Carolinas, we were just not prepared. Never seen it, never had a reason to prepare for something like that. Even back with Hurricane Hugo, they said this one has done more damage than Hurricane Hugo in some areas. And yes, the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Charlotte metro area. They said that Hurricane Hugo in one area, I think it was York, South Carolina, Hurricane Hugo knocked out 20,000 households were affected, no power. This one, Hurricane Helene, is 34,000. So, that's just to show how powerful this storm was. And so we have to remember that cash is still king. Your donation, your monetary donations is very important, as well as everything else. And so that's what I kind of wanted to focus on, because we're great at supplies. People are just lined up everywhere because they know that people are suffering. They know it, so they're taking the clothes, the water, everything. I'm seeing all over Facebook, all over social media, these people, and I love it. I'm loving it. I love seeing it. But there were some people that were saying, we just need more cash. We just need more cash right now. And so that's why I wanted to like focus on that one. With that being said, I did a show not too long ago about making sure when you make monetary donations, make sure you're making them to legitimate organizations. And so I just wanted to share some of the organizations that are the legitimate ones. Um, this is just a short list. American Red Cross. We all know they are all usually the first to respond. They are the first to respond to these types of natural disasters, and they they were already short of blood because most people aren't thinking all of the people are having to go to the hospital, things like that, and everything, and the need for blood. These frontline workers, the doctors, the nurses, all of these people, they're working their tails off right now. And so you're doing a lot with a little. So let's remember the American Red Cross. That's redcross.org. They're proven to always be there. United Way. The United Way, they're usually one of the first ones that help with shelters, getting the people housed. For instance, they're at work in the town we live in, right outside of Charlotte. They came in, responded over the weekend. You can tell that they are masters at sheltering a lot of people quickly, because they use one of the old middle schools, turn it into a place for people to come to, just like that. It happened so quick. It was like, I was like, wow, they responded quick, and it's running, and people are saying that they're doing exactly what they said that they were going to do. They have a safe place to stay because there's still power out. People are still without power and everything. And so, the United Way, that's their thing, making sure you get the food, clothing, shelter, making sure you have a place to stay. You won't be out in the cold or in the extreme heat, which we're all going through, and they have all the supplies that they need. Salvation Army. We all know the Salvation Army. They're the disaster warehouses. They respond all around the world, really, wherever we see them. And they're always in fundraising mode. They're always in need of funds. Now, there's another one. It's called CARE. And CARE is providing emergency cash assistance to help families in underserved communities that have been affected by Helene. So these are those little rural towns and things like that. Most of the time, and it could be in it could be in any state, New York or wherever. They have small towns, rural towns. Every state has them. In North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida are loaded with them. And so that's where CARE comes in. They're like more localized type things. They come in and they're basically financially driven, financial assistance. You have AmeriCares. This organization, it focuses on urgent medical needs in aftermath of a disaster, and they also stick around for the long-term projects. They don't come in and take care of people, get them healed, and leave. They stick around because this type of situation here with Helene. Let's take Asheville for example. Asheville was pretty much shut down. There's no entries into Asheville. Now they're beginning to get there. The emergency people are able to get there, helicopters, things like that. The water. The water is just unusable up there because all of these propane tanks are floating around, things like that. Sewer. The death that was caused floating in the water. Just think about all of this that has blended together, all of this fuel, propane gas, animals, all of this. Just think, and let's just not even think about the sewer. So they're in to take care of that long-term recovery of infrastructure, and that's what AmeriCares does. Now, then you go into the more local ones. For instance, Florida Disaster Fund. That's a big one because they see their share of disasters every year. Uh, Here in North Carolina, we have the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina. Uh, it's a nonprofit. It serves 18 counties of Western North Carolina with unrestricted charitable funds. So there you go. They need charitable funds. So they're going to help with the medical care, help paying that type of stuff, um, helping people to get back on their feet, because look, these people aren't working, they don't have incomes and things like that. So that's where that comes into play, helping with that. And one that probably hasn't crossed anyone's mind. Well, I thought about it, but it really didn't stick because you look at most people, they just look at the broad picture, the big picture of so many people suffering. But I saw the campus of Appalachian State University. These kids, they've lost cars. They're trapped. They don't have power. They've lost a lot of belongings, the ones on the first floor. So let's think about them. So we have, you have a couple of college campuses that are suffering through this. And so most people, they're focused on, the neighborhoods, where the houses are. Okay, let's think about these kids in Appalachian State, which is in Boone, and they have a Hickory campus. They both are suffering right now because Hickory, they're having, they were in the path, just like us. They were in the path of the hurricane also. So they had their share. They wasn't affected as much as up there in Boone, but they were hit just as hard. So these are students, and a lot of these students aren't from here. They came to the colleges specifically, from out of state, things like that. And so maybe they don't have family, stuff. So we have to think about them also to go and take care of those kids on campus who maybe wait for their parents or families to get here and may not be able to get to them right off the bat because of, they're waiting for the water to recede, things like this. And so we have to keep that keep that in mind to take care of the college kids. And most of the time, a lot of people just automatically think when something happened, the kids just leave and go back home. Well, no, these kids, they were on their balconies filming, and all you could see was the top of their cars. Just a little bit of their cars sticking out of the water, out of the flood. So cars total. That's an automatic total. So we have to keep that in mind. Now, we do have to watch for the scammers, and that's the reason why I named these particular ones that you can go directly to. So if you wanted to help the students of App State, you can call directly to App State, and they will, direct you on how you can be of assistance with the kids, with the students there, the faculty, everyone that works there, everyone's been affected. So these were the big ones. And don't forget, your local churches, local fire departments, your local police departments. There are nonprofits in every area. This is more of the micro type stuff. So you may have a charity in your, local charity that's doing their work. Make sure that they are fully funded and have all the supplies that they need. So we're thinking about the big ones, the Red Crosses, Salvation Army. Don't forget about the local churches because they're doing an excellent job also. They're doing excellent. I'm watching the news and I'm seeing these local churches. They're, loading up to go help. They're writing checks, doing what they have to do because we're so close to the mountains. There, all of us, we have family there, family and friends there. I'm listening to one of the local meteorologists on WBTV. He was up there because two of his best friends was in the middle, and they actually had to take a helicopter to go. His friends has health problems, and the helicopter had to land in the area near their house because they were surrounded by water. And so the helicopter had to go in and actually airlift them out. So we were all affected. So that's what I wanted to dedicate this show to this evening, was just to have everyone, our thoughts and prayers, and we make sure we direct our time, talent, and treasures towards these organizations that are on the front lines and here serving. I'm looking on social media, on Facebook, power companies. They were already on their way from Georgia, these places to come up here because they kind of knew that this area was going to get hit much. They were already being hit by a storm even before the hurricane got here. It was already a lot of rain, so that's what made it so much worse. It had already been raining in the area, and then Hurricane Helene came right behind it. Well, tropical storm, once it hit the land, it's tropical storm. It came behind and made matters worse. And so there were already power companies from outside that was here working, and some of them had worked 20 hours and hadn't even eaten, or maybe had a burger or something like that. So let's keep them in mind. When you see these people out here and they're tired and they've made a lot of sacrifice. They've left their families to come and help people that they don't know. They don't know what's going to happen. And so they left family behind to come and take care. So just keep all of that in mind. And every bit helps. Every bit helps. Some people would say, what can I do? Every little bit helps. Just think, it's 200 some odd million people, 300 million people in America, or 200 million adults, $1 a person, $200 million. That's a lot. So every little bit counts. And everyone's really stepping up. And I just wanted to make sure that people understood. Watch for the scammers. Make sure there's no reason someone calling you saying we're accepting donations. No, you have plenty of people that's out there doing the work. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. So you're a police officer that's riding by. You can stop them and say, hey, where can I take a donation, or where can I do that? They'll tell you. You don't have to sit in and answer a phone or whatever. Well, with power being the way it is in most of the places, probably not on your phones anyway, you ran out of charge. And like Asheville, they don't even have cell service. They're not even able to use those cell services. Even the local news channels and things like that, they were having problems with being viewed because they just didn't have the bandwidth to power everything. So we have to think about that. So I just wanted to just put that out there. And just to make sure we remember those that are working and how we can help, who to think about. Don't forget about those college kids stranded on, stuck on campuses, and everything, and using thin resources. So let's really think about that. So my question of the day is, do you know someone affected by Hurricane Helene? And I know that's a very obvious question, like, duh, we all know somebody. How many people? That's what I'm trying to convey here, is to really think about, okay, you're thinking about immediate family. What about the friends, and what about friends of friends, people you all know, and have you reached out to any of them? I know Andrea, she spent the entire weekend trying to contact a few people, and she started Friday and finally was able to talk to someone Sunday. So let's remember that. All right. So please tune in tomorrow. I'll be back the same time, same channels, Facebook, YouTube. Have a good evening.